Past years, we've had our congregational planning meetings in January, and this is a forum and a way to gather input from the congregation that the council and the ministries of the church take and use to plan and kind of set the course for next year. This year, we had intended to take a slightly different approach. Rather than spend the better part of a Sunday afternoon, which can get a little bit long, and what we decided is to mix the planning forum sessions up a little bit differently and break it up into 3 separate meetings and have them between services. So this is the first of those 3, really what we wanted to do is gather input from the congregation, from you, of, I think everybody has got one of these handouts. So wanted to get some feedback regarding the main reason we're here, and that's worship and Bible study and children's ministries. So what we'll do is we'll take your inputs and comments that the elders and the council ministry leaders will take into 2017 and kind of map out what should we be focusing on as a congregation, and what you'll see here eventually is the different ministries that we've done in the past, and they're really detailed on this survey as well. So what I wrote up here, which I'm really just going to open up the floor, is from ministry, Bible study, worship, children's ministry. What are the things that we should continue doing? What are we getting some traction, and what as a congregation would you like us to continue focusing on and working on? Are there any new ideas? Anything that we should start doing and plan on for 2017? And last, is there anything that has been really that we should stop doing for whatever reason? So that's kind of the opening, if you will. So again, what we'll do is we'll gather feedback and input from your comments and open discussion. Recognize a lot of folks may not be comfortable in Aaron's kind of a quiet guy, keeps his thoughts to himself. So if you're like Aaron and you're a little more reserved, not comfortable speaking in public, by all means, please capture your thoughts and comments on the survey and provide feedback this way. So we'll take input from the congregation on the surveys, and based on your comments, that will again help us plan for areas of worship, children's ministry, and Bible study for next year. So I'm going to stop there and again kind of open up. Based on what you see, use this as a framework and a guide, since we don't have our visual right here. But worship, liturgy, songs, sermons, are there specific elements that you'd like to see us continue next year? Any areas that you'd like us to stop, or anything new that we should consider starting? Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
So with regard to first question on the survey around the liturgy, we like the variety. I think how we approach having different types of liturgy is a good thing. I think it kind of keeps us a bit from becoming complacent and just kind of going through the road, if you will. So having different settings of service, I think, is helpful to keep us mindful of how we're worshiping. And again, I think that's a continue from my perspective.
Okay, thank you for the input. By the way, Allison is going to be capturing some notes, and again, just kind of summarizing everything so that we don't lose sight. My memory is terrible, so Allison, thank you for capturing the notes, and then again, the ministry leaders will kind of distill through all the feedback and help us plan ahead. Deb, thanks. Other thoughts? Okay,
Okay,
yeah, Dan.
I think the choir is definitely one of our strengths here. I'm trying to mention how Tuesday night tends to kind of miss out on some of the music like that happens in church or some other people participating in worship. I was kind of thinking, this might be a Jim question actually. Do we have the capability to record our choir hymns or choir songs and play them back on Tuesday maybe? Like if we do, or would there be interest in having that? To be able to get the audio file, and then we could even, as part of our social media stuff, maybe share that once in a while too. Just thought, I don't know if we're capable of making a recording and playing it back easily or not.
Sure, anything can be done. Just have to find somebody to do it.
Of course, yeah. I guess it'd be more of like if people would be interested in having that on Tuesdays.
Okay, yeah, good thought, thanks, Dan. There was another,
Just going along with that, I thought the one Tuesday night when we did go, when they had the recording played after speaking, was a very good thing because it made it very assertive. His sermon was on the wall, and that was so much, well, I shouldn't say nicer, but it was made it easier for you elders who had to otherwise read the sermon. And I thought that was a good thing. So I would think if you can do that with that, you could do it with music too.
okay. I'm gonna draw out on that a little bit on the topic of projecting information, whether it's hymns or pictures or specific information, either during the children's sermon, or during throughout the service. Any feedback on the use of the projection in the sanctuary during service? Is that something you like? Is that something that does it support and really help contribute to your focus and focus on worship? Is that something that's a detractor? Any thoughts and feedback there?
People like me, it's a great help. I need all kinds of help anyway, so it just reinforces, the service, what's going on. Generally, it's music that's up there, but sometimes it's other visuals or little vignettes, and that's nice to see. So I think it's good. And back to the music thing, I think it's kind of interesting, after being here Saturday, to watch the children do their program from preschool. That also could be possibly put on in the future when they do a performance, to have somebody look at it, online. Because it was well done. Thanks to the teachers.
John?
I do appreciate the use of these still photos and sometimes videos that pastor incorporates into sermons. Today especially, just the photograph of Herod's portraits on top of the mountain, which I've read about but never seen a picture of, where John the Baptist was at. I found that interesting to see that, having read about it and so on. And even the mention of the broom tree and the picture of it, so you could make at least could make a visual connection with that. Really is helpful. I don't know if anybody appreciates it, but I do.
I share the same thoughts. Reading and just having that visual to see the steep walls and the incline and on three sides really helped understand the magnitude. It really helped kind of bring everything together there. So songs, we've touched on songs a little bit.
I just had a different comment. I figured Rachel, Donovan's father, probably was too quiet to say anything, but he was looking at the sheet, and he said, well, there's a question that says, are the sermons too long? He was going, why isn't there a question, are the sermons too short? So I just thought I would bring we can go at that next year.
Yeah, fair question. So maybe just a quick arm poll. Thoughts if the sermons are too long? Are the sermons too short? Is the length of sermons just right?
20 minutes.
20 minutes plus or minus 10 seconds?
18.
Try to keep making it 17.
Okay.
Sorry about that. That was a distraction.
Looking at the topic of sermons, and let's be fair and honest. Of all ministries, worship is the core of why St. Peter is here. Is being fed by God's word, and also us worshiping. Looking at relevance, that's a question that resonates with me. Are the sermons relevant to your personal life, as an individual? So any thoughts that you may have there, and willing to share on relevance? Are they on? Are they way out there? Somewhere not relevant? Any feedback you may have? Pastor's got thick skin, so. Spent too much time.
Spent too much time as a child in the Rock River, so that's why.
I think that's something that's nice with the sermon, that take whatever our reading or scripture reading is for that Sunday, and how, if Jesus was here today, how would that apply to us today? So I think you do some of that, but I think too, just you incorporate that as in today's society, and being, if you're younger with raising younger children, if you have kids in middle school or high school to college, to you're retired, and all of that, of how do you take that message and just make it like you're saying, fit into my personal life, would be using stories from today as well. And I remember what they talked about in the book with like getting the Kleenex or something like that, and how things like that I think are really great. Things that we're all experiencing in everyday life, that I'm like, oh yes,
Yeah, that's a good point. In the past weeks, in the back of the bulletin, there's added this my worship notes, and it says for children to use during worship. I don't know that it's necessarily just for children, but I've just kind of observed and seen a lot of kids. They see some of the older kids doing sermon summaries and write notes, and they just kind of go in and see them write some notes and what resonates with them. So I think that was something to definitely consider. But any feedback from folks? I mean, it's just from having that in there, and maybe you don't write, maybe you write notes, maybe you don't. But any thoughts of is this helpful in kind of keeping the focus on worship and or the sermon that we should continue doing?
I'd like to see a little bit more space where the sermon is. That space in there where it says sermon and whatever scripture that he's preaching on, have some space in there, so you could ride around in that area.
Okay. All right, that's a great recommendation. So right in the bulletin, have some dedicated white space to write some notes right by the sermon.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Good recommendation. Thank you for that. Just kind of going down the list here. music and choir. You know, there's been a, there we go, all right. So going down to maybe we could forward to the music and choir section. There's been, by design and by input provided, there's been a bit more variety to the songs and introducing new songs versus the ones that we're very familiar with. Any feedback there? Mary?
Well, it's not on that. Today we have pre-service music, and I truly appreciate that because oftentimes, at least at first service, it is noisy almost until the service starts. I find that very objectionable myself, but I'm not about to say something. But the pre-service music seems to solve that issue so that we can focus on one another.
Okay. Okay, can I make a comment with the so something we can certainly make a conscious effort of, and something that we've talked about over the last number of years is about 5 minutes before service starts is that the ushers make a conscious effort to close the doors to the sanctuary so that conversation and fellowship can happen in the fellowship hall, but to create more of a quiet, solemn environment in the sanctuary to prepare for worship. So that's something, I know that's not exactly what was said, but that's something that input that we can certainly make more of a conscious effort with our ushers. But good to hear the comments about the pre-service music as well. So thoughts about music, about having instruments and different music selections incorporated in service, introducing new hymns. Any thoughts? Do you like the introduction of new hymns? Are they pretty tough to learn? James?
I think we have quite a number of talented people here who have occasionally done special music for us and who are capable of doing it and who are willing to do it. And I would like to see us get closer to having something every Sunday. Whether that's just a soloist or pre-service, both of those things today, which is great, but we can have just something every Sunday in addition to just normal accompanist and choir friends, congregation singing. I think if we started doing it that way, people are willing to do it. We have a number of talented people who, I think if they were asked, would do it even if they haven't yet. So I'd like to see us try to do that.
Okay. All right.
Be willing to ask. I mean, even if people say no.
Good point. Shirley beat you just by 10 seconds, Pastor.
I think it really helps when with the new hymns. Yeah, if it's not the whole choir, even a couple of people singing it ahead of time for the first verse to help us learn those new ones. And we have done that at times, and sometimes it's choir or just a soloist or a duet that would do that. And that does help to learn that for a hymn. And I think we should all be wanting to learn new music and be a little bit more flexible.
Some of the just an observation is some of the new hymns when we go through them for the first time, there's 3 or 4 stanzas. It seems by the 4th stanza we're getting it. Yeah. Pastor?
Yeah, the question is on the same line, kind of from the worship committee and hymn picking. It'd be good to kind of get the feedback of the congregation. As we look at all of the hymns each Sunday, we try to find that balance of not only singing just the old ones we know, but singing a range between the worship supplement and the red hymnal, and occasionally having a new hymn that we learn. I guess my question would be, have we kind of hit that balance where most of the congregation probably aren't, Class A singers, so have we hit that balance where you feel like the hymns are enjoyable enough that we're not struggling on a Sunday, or they're not so simple that it's only the few we know. Have they kind of hit that balance of hymn picking that we're comfortable with? Yeah, he says no.
Go.
I think the mix that we have is good. You know, there's occasionally one, I think we had 2 or 3 weeks ago, that really felt awkward for every of us except for the refrain. Finally got it. But in general, I think that they're good, and I don't mind those hymns, the new ones. However, my personal opinion about Reformation and Easter is that those are times where we should concentrate on the old geezer kind of me, traditional hymns and things. Just, you know, that's my personal opinion. Reformation and Easter.
Okay. Thoughts, Deb?
Well, just on new hymns, I would agree with pretty much what Gil was saying as well, even the Easter songs. And I think we do have a good mix, and I think it's a challenge for the worship committee to pick songs that are going to be consistent with the message that's in the scripture and the sermon.
And they're doing a good job of that.
They are, but I think that's work we call out to say, we know that's part of how they make the selection. If we can migrate maybe a bit more into the Blue Book, because I think we've just scratched the surface there, and there are some wonderful pieces in that book that, as a congregation, we probably haven't explored yet. Again, it's kind of a timing thing. How much can you put into any given service without having the whole service the Blue Book? But I think there, again, we're all very comfortable with the Red Book. It's been around forever. And the Blue Book offers some other really wonderful insights into what songwriters have done around the scripture. So that would be my only other comment. Add a little more of the blues sometimes.
Okay. Thanks, Deb. Regarding introducing, so regarding the introduction of new hymns, are there any thoughts to introducing those during Bible study, either at the start or at the close of a Bible study, versus, you know, would that be a welcomed idea, or would you prefer to introduce those new songs during worship, where there's more vocals, more singing? Any just an idea putting out there?
What about as part of the pre-service music, having that could be, if there's going to be any new songs, or just a new song, that we could do that as part of pre-service music, so that it's not taking away from maybe it's taking but then all the instruments are in there, and I don't know, you could use the audio visuals and put things up there and have maybe a member or two of the choir up front leading that and saying we're going to learn, here's a new song, even if it's just going through a stanza or a refrain, so that we're kind of familiar then with how it's used.
Yeah, that's a great recommendation. I'm not sure if everybody heard that, but using pre-service music in that time as an opportunity to introduce the new songs. That's a great recommendation.
That's one of the things that I've tried to do when I accompany, is just to play through, like if there's a new song during the service, just to play it, so people kind of, like when we get to that song, it's familiar, but they don't know why. It's like simple. But I like the idea of we also introduce new songs in choir, and try to get familiar with that, so at least choir members know new songs and can sing a little bit louder during the service if we have any. But I also like the idea of doing it before or after Bible study. I think that's a good idea.
I also think that going along with that, sometimes you introduce a new song and then it might be 3 months before we sing it again. maybe we should sing it 2 weeks in a row, so that we would maybe be able to sing it better.
If the message
Yeah,
is
right.
congruent with this.
But I mean, maybe to have the new songs sung a little more often, so that we do become familiar with them. Because if you only sing them once or twice a year, I'm not going to be familiar with them.
Okay, thanks, Shirley.
I'll find that.
Other thoughts on music? There was a hand somewhere over? No? Okay. Yeah.
Is the organ okay?
Yes.
Can we maybe use that? I really do appreciate the pianists we have. You guys are so gifted. I would like to have the organ a little bit more.
This is the only organist, yeah. She's the one who's playing it, yeah. And we try and rotate between the three accompanist that we have, so none of them.
She'll give you lessons though, Mary.
And they'll be free.
Okay, yeah, good input. Ryan?
Real quick, who are all the people involved with worship committee so that we can familiarize ourselves with them? If we have feedback, it doesn't need to be this setting, but if we like a song or we don't like a song, who are the people that we could just say, hey, this is what I thought today, or good job, or I like this?
Bethany put on, Rachel, Donovan,
Crystal.
Natalie, Crystal, Lisa, McKenny, and
Amy.
There's a group of people there that we can give our feedback to as well, which I'm sure would take it to the group and help form decisions in what they do going forward as well.
Yes.
Sort of, it's not on the top of the music or anything, but just one of the thoughts that I had. I really appreciate in our readings, kind of the back and forth. Anytime that there's like scripture references in the dialogue or pastor or congregation readings, to have those actually referenced in the bulletin. I feel like it's just nice to acknowledge that we're speaking from the Bible for new visitors or people that might not be familiar with what we're saying. I don't know, it's something extra that just kind of adds that extra meaning to what we do.
We've kind of talked about that, Dan, a lot of times when we do like Easter and Christmas Eve, especially because it's a big visitor attendance. So we've tried to do it a lot of those, and we could probably do it more for even just on Sundays, but.
Okay, so now we've got worship up here. Any other? We had worship up here. Any other thoughts that maybe came by seeing some of the teased up questions, topics presented there? All right. There's this general category of other. How are we?
Move on.
So just a quick question. Any feedback on the substitute preachers, vicars, incorporating use of vicars and other substitute preachers while pastor is on vacation? Something to continue doing. Okay. All right. Okay, so Bible study, Bible study, and then we'll cover on children's ministry. So I'll be sensitive to the time here. So Bible study, any feedback on Bible study? Are there any specific topics that you would really like that there's a Bible study focused on? Do we have enough opportunities to reach the entire congregation? The various study groups and times throughout the week. Is that just right? Are there too many? Are there any groups that we're not reaching, or times that would be more preferred regarding Bible study? I know there's a lot in that question, but any any feedback at all? Are the Bible study topics, are they impactful and relevant to your individual life and maybe challenges or help you with the rest of your week? See some heads nodding, yes.
I don't think there's many people in Bible study if they weren't relevant. If you think of the numbers of people that come to Bible study, apparently it is relevant.
Yeah. Okay. So then if there's anything else on, or not anything else on Bible study, we'll go on to children's ministry. So obviously we've got a growing children's population in our congregation, which is something we're very blessed with. Heavy weighted on the female population a little bit. We're coming up with the young men. So any thoughts on children's ministry? Are we on the right track? The programs that we have, is there groups that we're missing? Anything specifically that you would like to see for yourself as a parent or to bring other children here?
Pioneers, like there's so many people who are involved in that and helping out, that would be a success.
Okay, keep the Pioneer program going. Okay. Crystal?
Nice if the Pioneers would include boys. I know it was just geared towards girls last time, but I have 3 boys, so I have to be more neutral.
Okay. Other thoughts on, do we have too many programs? Do we have not enough programs? I know we're oftentimes competing with other activities throughout the week, whether it's school activities or sports activities. So are we, is the focus of our children's ministry, is it would more, and here's the balance, is if you have an activity with 2 or 3 kids, versus you have an activity and you end up getting 10, 12, 15 kids, a larger group, there's advantages to both. So would more focus on children's activities, a different, any new ideas for activities that would get more kids involved, or should we focus on just a core 2 or 3 or 4 things and schedule less activities in effort to try to get a larger population, larger involvement of kids involved?
I would agree with your section. Have less, have more focus.
Okay.
I agree with that, and then also we should make a more concentrated effort on inviting the preschool families, making sure that they are involved with certain activities.
All right, Shirley?
Don't you have to look at where our population is? Look at this age group, this age group, this age group. Are we meeting those needs read? No. There's only 2 or 3 in this group, and there's 25 in this group. You really have to make the activities for the ages of the kids we have.
Yep, yeah, certainly, yeah. Keeping them age appropriate. They may not all.
Yeah, and see what our population really is, because we have a lot of little ones right now. What is our junior high? What is our high school population? Where can we put the emphasis for them?
There's a question on the feedback form that talks about increasing staff and Mr. hours for junior, senior youth group. And take out the staff, and I just would be curious about people's views about junior and senior youth. Junior youth is maybe 5th grade through 8th grade. Senior youth is high school. Right now, we really don't have any ministry for those groups. And if I'm looking at, we have a number of 5th and 6th graders, some 7th, 8th graders, a lot more coming up. I've always been of the opinion as a church, you really can't be a healthy church if you're not going to have viable youth program. So I would just be interested if what other people's views of that are, especially since we do have a large number of kids heading up into those two groups. And maybe comments about what it looks like. You know, parents need to support it since most junior youth don't drive themselves, so they're relying on parents to do it.
I'm not at that stage yet, but as someone who will be, I think it would be great to get some good things established. So I think the sooner we start getting something that becomes part of us, then I think the better.
But on the same note as what Kelly said, I'd like to have the fewer things well established instead of a lot of little things that we're trying to bring our kids here 10 times a week, and each one only has like 2 kids there, 3 kids here. I'd like to get well-established few things, because I think that's something we struggle with. We have a lot of things that go on for kids, and there ends up being about 3 kids there, and it's really tough to run a program with such a few amount of kids when you've tried to plan it out for so many, and there's only like 3 kids there.
So an example, if I could just share an example of a very, very well-established program, it's the Rocky Mountain Christian Camp. It's been around, I don't know, for a number of years. Gil, you probably know precisely how many, but that's a, that's...
Maybe 44.
44. So, yeah, so I mean, that's an example of, it's a very focused, it's 1 week out of the year, but man, kids are coming from all around, and here are kids in this congregation looking forward to it and talking already about what they can't wait to do next year at camp. So that's an example of a very targeted, a lot of work, a lot of effort that goes into it, a lot of volunteer support. Just kind of making that known if there's any interest, folks like the camp and want to, hang out there for a week, but very, very rewarding. The kids make friendships. Beyond the example last year, one of our kids from this congregation met their neighbor from about a block away, where they had seen each other and they knew who each other were, but they really didn't know them and have a relationship. But they ended up at camp together in the same tent and in the same group, and wow, there's just a friendship established there. So again, just an example of one thing really focused that's quite successful.
Maybe we could do like a survey, like of the parents who have kids that are the same age, and just put down like a list of different topics or things that they think their kids would be interested in, and then you could try to match and figure out like a more focused like children's choir or something like that, and then we could all figure out what different kids are interested in, and then talk to the parents and be like, would you be willing to put the time and effort in for your kids to attend every day, 1 day a week or whatever, so that it's not so scattered and,
What if we came up with like a list of 10 that you ranked?
Yeah.
Something like that. Otherwise, you could probably get a bunch of different responses if you just wrote some down. I mean, maybe the people who come up with the list or something might get some feedback from different things, but at least have a list to start with. Might be a little bit easier.
Yeah, I like to do a couple ideas, both getting the, targeted survey, but also the idea of, kids choir. That's a.
I know my girls love to sing. They love music, but they're not always consistently practicing songs, like in Sunday school, so if they had like a specific practice or something.
Pastor?
Yeah, I know, I know Dan kind of does it with the young adults, but to have the kids kind of serve in some way, I think that's helpful. I know my brother's congregation, they would have a young children's instrument group. They had enough kids that played instruments, and once a month, they would accompany for one song in church. Or whether it's a choir like that, so it gives them a need too. You know, you get the kids together to study God's Word, you get them together at the corn maze for fun and fellowship, and then you get them in some way, involved like that. So I think that's a good reminder that that's what the program needs to look like, those two things.
Brent?
Do we know we got two called workers, as far as the children's stuff goes. Do we know who's in charge or in lead of everything? Is it Lisa or is it Dan as a called worker, or as there are two positions. Do we know who is actually supposed to be in charge of the children's ministry?
So we've got two very specific calls. The short answer is yes. Maybe the longer answer is that clearly communicated to the congregation as much as it could be, and the real answer there is there may be an opportunity that we can shore that up and a little more broadly and clearly communicate those roles and responsibilities attached with each call.
So maybe Lisa's responsible for younger children, pioneers, age, first grade to like sixth grade. She's kind of heads that up and gets help. Technically, youth group is under the staff minister's call, although it was put way down at the agenda, at the end of the agenda for his stuff, because we don't have that many kids right now. Just so you can feed back to your council members and elders, the elders are visiting the idea, do we increase his hours somewhat? Because right now his hours are filled up with what he's doing without youth group. Do you want to dedicate a youth group? You kind of got to have someone who says, the buck stops with me, I'm going to put time into it. The elders are entertaining that thought, do we make the buck stop for junior and senior youth group with a call worker, with Dan? So you can mull that idea over in your mind and feed back to them so they know what recommendation to bring to council. So that's how it's stacked up right now. We really don't have junior youth group because we don't have that many kids, nor do we have any dedicated resources.
We've got to meet those kids because they're the ones that's Mary just said we lose. If we don't get them involved in church after they're confirmed, we lose them.
Even if there's only 2 or 3, I mean,
we've got to do something to keep them with us.
Okay, I'm mindful of the time, we've only got a couple of minutes until we wrap up. Any other thoughts or feedback to share in this forum? And certainly, if there's input, ideas that you've thought of or that you think of, take this with you. And if thoughts come to mind, throughout the week or next week, by all means, bring us your ideas and thoughts and feedback that we can compile. And also any thought, in the next couple of weeks, we'll have additional congregational planning topics and feedback sessions to gather here. So you'd be curious of this approach of kind of breaking up the feedback and planning sessions over multiple weeks versus having one longer, typically better part of a Sunday afternoon type of meeting. So give us your thoughts there so we can make adjustments in the future as well. So thank you everybody for all. Gil?
Just real quickly, a couple weeks ago we had a chili cook-off. You may have noticed that Britna's Camp Chili was not entered because it would have been unfair competition. But next
Next week is Christmas caroling, where there will be Brenda's Camp Chili served after caroling. So if you want some of it, then please come and carol with us next week.
It's a lot of fun.
And the time is
We're meeting here at 2.
2 o'clock next Sunday afternoon. No Bronco game to interfere with.
Nope.
So,
And you don't have to be a singer, you're going to cheer up people's lives. We have some shut-ins, we have other places to go to. It's cool seeing the little kids that come and they ring their Santa bells and everything. So just come for making somebody else's day special. That's why we do it.
Thank you, Gil.